The following episode will contain spoilers. You have been warned.
You're listening to Cinema IRL, the podcast that throws you into the movie and asks the question, what would you do? Alcohol. I don't have a joke because it's not funny. Amber and Scott discuss the addiction after watching the Outrun. And now, Cinema IRL.
I wish I could switch places for just one day.
What would you do?
Put yourself in my shoes.
How do we handle this?
What would you do?
Put yourself in my position.
What would you do?
Now it's your turn.
I could not outrun or run out of this film fast enough.
Sundance Film Festival, The Kiss of Death.
Yes, this episode we are talking about the Outrun. After living life on the edge in London, Rona attempts to come to terms with her troubled past. She returns to the wild beauty of Scotland, hoping to heal. So this film got all kinds of awards from Sundance-type entities, and generally that seems to be a theme of films that
are heavy on the fartsy and light on the artsy.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy this film so much so that I actually fell asleep. And it was just confusing. Like, were the time frame, she had different color hair. So I was like, are the time frames with the hair meant to be different periods that have passed? It was confusing. I could not follow the storyline with the bouncing all around and her blue hair and then her yellow hair with the blue hair on the bottom and then the pink hair. I didn't know what was happening in real time. I could not follow this film. I found it very frustrating. And eventually I gave up and I let myself just drift away.
I mean, I followed it well enough. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, at a certain point, because sometimes I will watch a movie to understand it well enough to do this episode, because as you've noted on many times, we don't do reviews, so I don't have to think about how much I like the movie. I just have to think about what would I do if I was the characters. And in this case, it's pretty cut and dry. Though nothing else about the movie was dry.
Well, yeah. So, yeah, funny, haha, pun intended. So when Scott's talking about dry, he's basically our main character here, Rona. She was battling alcoholism. Yeah,
and there was also a lot of ocean stuff involved as well. So
yeah,
it was dry multiple, not dry.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, the truth is the details of this film barely matter.
Right. We're talking about what would we do if we were in the main character's shoes or any of the characters' shoes. Yeah. And there were some other characters here that played a role throughout the film, one being her mom, who would pray for her, one being her bipolar dad, who checked in and out from her when she was born up and through the film taking place, which she was, I believe, 28 or 29, and then the on-again, off-again boyfriend who was left to pick up the pieces from all of her alcoholic stupors and antics that got her really messed up.
I mean, really, this movie is just simply about alcoholism. That's and true. What it can do to the person and what it can do to the people around them.
Right.
And its impact. And I mean, this one hits home for me because my grandparents, especially if you look down my dad's side, but I think on my mom's side too, I think my grandfather, I know my dad's grandfather was an alcoholic, a pretty bad one. My dad has struggled with it himself, and 3 of my siblings have all struggled with it. So, like, this is one of those things that, like, I've always had to be careful because I know that this stuff is hereditary. And so I've always had to be a little cautious, like, okay, let's make sure that I don't slip down that same path myself. So, because it's very, I mean, again, I've been one of those people in the life of people who have been alcoholics and seen the destruction that it has caused. And it's not pretty, boys and girls.
Yeah, I feel fortunate that neither one of us can speak firsthand from Rona's point of view, the main character, because it is a struggle, and it's something that once you're in that situation, it is really hard for a lot of folks to pull themselves out.
And the word functioning gets used here a lot because there are 2 kinds of alcoholics. You have functioning alcoholics and non-functioning alcoholics. And I dated a functioning alcoholic for several years. And like she would probably average close to a bottle of wine a day. But she knew how to handle it. You never really knew that she had that much, and she knew how to function. In that case, it's fine. Like if you can handle.
Well, I don't know if that's fine. If you're downing a bottle of wine every day, I don't think that's fine at all.
Well,
I mean, at a minimum, from a health standpoint, your body wasn't made to consume a bottle of alcohol per day. But from an emotional, mental standpoint, to indulge in that much at that point, that really is, you're looking at alcohol as a depressant. And
well, I know she was dealing with some serious shit, so I actually can't speak for.
All the more reason not to numb those emotions with alcohol. I mean,
No, she was a widower. I would probably numb myself. Now, I can't speak to what she was like prior to that. I don't know if she was an alcoholic or not, or if that's something she turned to. But either way, you didn't really know. Like if you just came across her, you wouldn't really be like, oh, she's drunk.
Yeah.
Like maybe a couple of times I saw it when she really drank kind of heavily, but you didn't see it. That's reasonable because that doesn't really affect the people around you. I never really felt like it was a problem in our relationship. Then you have people like Rhoda who are not functioning alcoholics. When they drink alcohol, they get.
But in a lot of ways she was. She went and she did her job and she helped her dad and she worked on his farm and she worked for the Marine organization. She did seem functional during the day, and then in the evening she'd go out and get drunk, so much so that, she made bad decisions. She fell. She got picked up by strangers and beaten around. She got tossed out of bars. So, I mean, I might disagree with you in the fact that I think she did function during the day. And again, whenever I talk here, for anyone who's listening and has firsthand experience with this, if I misstep in anything I say or do, please forgive me. This isn't something I'm speaking from experience. So if I say something wrong, please show me grace and understanding. And I'm trying not to walk over that line to talk about things I don't know about.
If you have bottles of alcohol hidden in suitcases and behind the sink in the bathroom.
If you hide alcohol, yes, you absolutely have a problem. But we were talking about functioning alcoholics. And yeah, she'd go and she'd take a swig from something, but she was still doing her job and going out and taking care of the things that need to be taken care of. And I think that's where I personally draw the line at functioning is, are you still functioning in society? Now, if you're going out at the end of the day, letting off steam and not knowing when to call it quits with, tipping back the drinks, I don't know if that falls into the same category.
I mean, listen, I'm not going to say we all, because we don't all, but a lot of us will get drunk every once in a while. Like here and there, it's an occasion, it's something. And I'm not saying never get drunk. I think it's perfectly fine, but it's like anything else in life. It's not if you do it, but how often you do it.
It's an addiction. Anything that has control over you that you don't have control over is an addiction. That could be alcohol, that could be pot, that could be cigarettes, that could be your phone, that could be sex. It can be a lot of things. If you don't have control, but it has control over you, that's an addiction.
It could be sex. Shout out David Duchovny.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, and I agree. So, like, I know you and I have had the discussion before about using alcohol as a crutch. Like, if I've had a hard day or I'm depressed over something, I might have a drink or two, and that's fine, so long as that is maybe the exception and not the norm. Because then you still have control over it. You're using it as a tool to help you in that moment. Now, if that is the tool you are always going to, and you are having problems every day, and you get to the point that you need it, then it has control over you, and then it is a problem. But I've always said things like pot, alcohol, and most of those things you mentioned, not necessarily all, but most of them, as long as you truly still have control over it, and you're using it as a tool in your tool chest, then it's fine. But yeah, like in this case, it controlled her, and that's not okay.
Yeah, I think you can use a beer or a glass of wine as a way to unwind in a similar way that someone might use a bath or, reading a book or working out or something. I think the problem is, as you said, when you start doing that regular, because that is indicative of you having much larger problems. If you need to drink at the end of every day, you really need to look at your day and what's going on in your life and start making changes at a root level.
I mean, in fairness, you and I had talked about when I went back home for the reunion, how
Your high school reunion.
alcohol tends to be involved. The first night of the reunion, I had 2 glasses of beer. The second night of the reunion, I had 1 bottle of beer. That's actually all the alcohol I drank while I was nabbling. Though, thanks to some miles, I got to sit at the front of the plane on the way back, and I literally cleaned them out of Bailey's because I wanted to unwind. And I was sitting at the front of the plane, so you can do that. But even at that, that was like 11 bottles, which I know sounds like a lot, but they're
It's just 11 bottles.
I mean, they're 50 milliliters. I mean, yes, it's a fair deal of alcohol, but I figured it out through chat. I actually did the math on the whole thing, and based on what I drank, at no point was I ever actually even at the level of being considered intoxicated. So, like, by the time I got off the plane, I was like 0.04. So, like, yes, I had a lot, but really not that much.
I think the line is when a behavior, regardless of what behavior that is, starts being either destructive to you or to those around you. And you know, I'm always big on the word moderation. Is anything done in moderation for the most part, I think is okay. It's when you start reaching those extremes, whether it could be food or social media addiction or alcohol. I think moderation is really where you need to live. And once you start living on either extreme of that, you know, when I said food, that could either be not enough food or too much food. Because if you're not taking in enough food, you probably have an eating disorder. And if you're taking in too much, you know, that could be...
Probably still have an eating disorder.
Well, that can also be so many other things. And as a guy, your brain probably doesn't go the places mine do. But, you know, sometimes it's eating as an escape, eating your emotions.
Oh, the jar of usually empty jelly beans on his desk understands that.
Yeah. So
but one thing I want to make sure that we do have time to cover here, we're discussing a lot of this. I mean, if you are the alcoholic, it's very difficult for you to see the impact that you're having on others. You're kind of so entangled in your own world that you don't see it. But let's take a moment and look at it from the perspective of the others, of the boyfriend who eventually just said enough was enough.
And he put up with a lot before he finally walked away.
No, he could have walked away well earlier, and no one would have blamed him. So the fact that he stayed as long as he did, I think was, no one's putting any of this blame on him. That's for sure.
Because when she would be drunk, you know, she would say things and do things.
Oh, she was a mean drunk.
Yeah. Instead of he would express concern, and her return would be, "You're trying to control me, and I hate you," and that's a lot for someone to put up with.
And it's hard. I mean, even. See, here's the thing about being drunk. People say, well, I said things I wouldn't say if I was sober. Well, yes.
Because when you're sober, you usually have the good sense to hold a lot in.
So, and that's the thing. You got to be real careful, because a lot of what you say when you're drunk is what you're really thinking, just minus, the inhibitions. So if you know enough about drunk people, like, those words are still going to hurt, because you know that there's a part of them that believes what they're saying. So, I mean, because, you kind of lose the rationale and the logical side that allows you to be like, I think they're just saying that just to hurt me. No, they're drunk. No, their brain didn't go that far. Their brain just started spouting off whatever they thought they believed at that point. And so that's...
It's hard to see anyone that you love hurt themselves in any way.
Yeah, and she was equally as wonderful to her mother as well. Like, in that, guess you didn't pray hard enough. Look at me, I'm fucked up. Didn't pray, need to pray more.
Yeah.
And like a lot of stuff. And it's, as the mom, you could tell that mom was, she was very devoted to her daughter. Like, she was not going to be, like, her daughter couldn't say something that was going to make her mom say, screw you. But I'll tell you this, you do, even as the sober family member, have to learn when to draw healthy boundaries, even if it's your child. Like, you've got to be able to give them love, give them compassion, give them help so much as they want it. But at a certain point, they have to want to get better, and not just with their words, but with their actions. And
well, you and I have talked about this with just general life changes in my philosophy of I can't want something for you more than you want it for yourself.
yeah, absolutely. So,
And that's hard because when people are battling alcoholism, they're not necessarily in a state to be making the best choices and making decisions that are in their best interest. So it's really difficult and complicated because you can see things in a way that they can't, and you want to advocate for them, and you want to fix things, and you want to help them. But they're frequently not objective enough to see the problem, and that's where things get so messy.
yeah, I couldn't agree more here. It's hard. It's hard dealing with that from both sides, especially like when you're the person who's been the drunk and you're finally getting help and you start to truly understand the gravity of what you've done and how it's affected the people around you. Like,
And hopefully you get to a point where you have that problem, because then that means somewhere along the line you made a decision, or someone else in your life made a decision for you, and hopefully you're on the path to getting better.
yeah, because Rhoda near the end, I mean, she got it cleaned up. She appeared to finally get her life in order, but
It's hard when you have extenuating circumstances as well, because her dad was bipolar. So while she's trying to, stay sober, she's dealing with her dad's episodes and his mania and him not sleeping and all of the drama that comes with having someone in your life who is battling the symptoms of being bipolar.
Well, yeah, but also a mental health quote, which a friend of mine has used many times, describing something like this: is the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. If you see
A lot
those
of things are
symptoms
genetic.
in your dad, there's a really good chance that there's a piece of that in you as well. So, and I'm sure that's part of what played into it. I mean, some of it wasn't her fault because it was just what she was born with. But in the same respect, I don't buy that completely, because yes, I have 3 siblings who at various points in their life were truly alcoholics, and I have alcoholism going back 2 generations, and that part's definitely in me, but I'm not an alcoholic. Like, there are still choices to be made, and so you can't completely blame it on that.
Yeah, sometimes that's a convenient excuse of saying, this is the hand I was dealt. There's lots of successful people in life who were dealt terrible lots in life. Oprah Winfrey, Tony Robbins,
Oh, yeah.
and have
Countless stories of
turned around their life. So you have to be careful in life in general, regardless of anything that might be challenging you, of not allowing excuses to let you stay in a space that's just not helpful for you.
Final thoughts?
Bottoms up?
Maybe not.
We hope you enjoyed our episode. Thank you for listening. And to catch all the new episodes, please subscribe. We release 2 to 3 episodes weekly, so we'll have new content regularly. Until next time.